Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Coffee, part of Provoking Safety, the channel where we think, talk, and do safety with the intention of provoking it at home and in the workplace. As I mentioned earlier this week, I'm rejigging the morning coffee and changing up some things with it, and today is Health and Wellness Day. I thought I'd do it on Wednesday just as a change up and also something to get you over that hump. Talk about something that has been predominantly thought of as the fringe area of health and safety, and that's health and wellness. So today I want to talk a little bit about mental illness and mental health. This week is Mental Illness Awareness Week. I want to read you something from the website. I'm going to leave links below with additional information that you can use and access and learn more about mental illness, mental health, and the effects it has in the workplace. Mental Illness Awareness Week is an annual national public education campaign designed to help open the eyes of Canadians to the reality of mental illness. The week was established in 1922 by the Canadian Psychiatric Association and is now coordinated by the Canadian Alliance on Mental Illness and Mental Health, in cooperation with all of its member organizations and many other supporters across Canada. Now, I know that sounded like a lot, but consider this. Over 20% of the workforce right now is experiencing mental health issues or mental illness in some way, shape, or form. So today I want to just cover 3 points, 3 quick points. While the third one is a bit longer, you'll just have to bear with me. First off, number one, I'm going to just put this infographic up, and it's something to understand that, as I said, over 20% of the workforce right now is experiencing mental health issues. There shouldn't be any judgment. No judgment. Mental illness and mental health issues are health issues, plain and simple. We wouldn't be judging somebody for what might be a visible chronic illness or something that they declare. Like a lot of people will say, hey, I'm battling diabetes, or I'm dealing with diabetes. Or some people might say, I'm hearing impaired, or whatever. Or you can see hearing aids. You can see a visible health issue with them. And we tend to accommodate it. But what about the invisible ones? My dear departed mother, when I passed judgment on somebody, I was very young and I made a comment. I can't recall what it was, but what she said stuck with me. And she said, Kevin, by the grace of God, go you. And I was like, huh? And she said, you're blessed. Don't judge others. Okay. And it's something that stuck with me for the rest of my life. Now, the other thing is, number 2 point, don't think you have the answer, and don't try to compare yourself in any one way, shape, or form with what the person might be going through. Unless you're a trained professional, you don't have the answer. And a lot of times, more often than not, really when you try to relate, you can't relate. So don't. And this brings me to the last point. Point number 3, being a good listener. That's what's needed. A lot of times, and I'm talking to managers, supervisors, leaders, you're going to get called upon to listen. And whether you like it or not, kind of part of your job. Okay? I like to think in the past as a manager that I did listen when the listening was important. I thought I'd talk about listening today. I know it sounds like a contradiction. I'm going to talk about listening. But think about this. A 2011 Harvard Business Review article suggested that we should listen 10 times more than we talk. Wow. So that means if you talk for 20 minutes in a day, you should likely be listening for 200 minutes? Wow. And this article was in an effort to coach others on improving a business relationship, like a client relationship. I mean, how often have we heard phrases like this when we're talking? Or in a conversation. Wait, let me finish. Okay, thanks, but now I'll finish what my original thought was or what I was originally saying. No, if you had have let me finish, you would have understood and wouldn't misunderstand me. Or you would have discovered, or you would have heard, or you fill in the blank. You've heard them all before. Well, okay, I have. Or the famous one, if you're hearing these, you know what? You're not listening as well as you should be. Okay, so I want to talk about some things that have worked for me. I understand, I do. I'm a huge offender. I suffer from constant conversation interruptus. I often think that I have the answer, or I know what that other person is going to say, and I work and try to finish it, or I interrupt them. I'm terrible at it. I admit it. And in normal everyday routines, most of the time it might not be of harm. Yeah, you're likely going to ostracize a few people and make less friends, but it's not that harmful. However, if someone is needing to talk about some sort of issue that they have, you know what? You're going to have to, and you think about it, you're given a ratio. 2 of these, 1 of these. It's time to let the 2 overweigh the 1. So here are some things that I've been trying to do. I'm going to share them with you over the last few months. I'm going to outline them briefly. I don't have all the answers. I'll leave some links below, and hopefully you too can benefit from them. I'm going to share some personal results that I've found. Don't kid yourself, I'm still very much a work in progress. Number 1, don't assume you're able to fix anything. A lot of times we're going to interrupt a person and thinking, hey, I got the answer, but don't. Okay, like I said, unless you're a professional, the biggest help you're likely going to give that person is to listen. Don't try to finish that conversation. And you know what? This is point 2. Just because they're not moving at the speed you would like them to, doesn't mean you have to try and hurry it up. Avoid this. Avoid the distractions. Number 3, put aside your cell phone. Turn off your computer screen. If you're on the phone, turn off your screen, turn away from any distractions so that you can give the attention to the person that's listening. I found it was the hardest thing. Where I was fortunate when people would call me on the phone, I couldn't surf the web. So I was forced to listen to them. And what I did is I got up and I walked into the kitchen where there is no other distractions, and I would listen to them. Helped me. If you're face to face, and I know it's not happening very much these days, well, if you're mask to mask, try to maintain face contact. A lot of cultures don't like you looking directly in their eyes. I can remember a person who was part of the team I worked with once. Hi, Tahir, if you're listening. And he told me, he said, I won't look at your eyes a lot of times. I was raised not to. And so try to maintain face contact, or at least look at their mouth when they're talking. It helps you to focus on them, and it also helps you to keep your attention on them. Also, when you're talking, try to repeat back or clarify what they've said by repeating back a partial phrase. It does 2 things. Number 1, it confirms that you're listening, so it comforts that person. And number 2, it makes sure that you're understanding. Don't be afraid to ask them to repeat themselves. Say, hey, could you repeat that? I wasn't quite sure what you said. Once again, it doesn't bother them. Don't do it. Don't litter the conversation too much with it, but it won't bother people. In fact, a lot of times it helps to confirm that you're listening. As I said, get rid of the distractions. So if a person has come into your office, ask them to close the door, or get up from your desk, sit down at a table if you have that opportunity, or say, hey, let's go for a walk. Okay, something that'll keep you from being distracted. Once again, as I said, you're not going to have the answers. In fact, you likely don't unless you're a trained professional. Don't try to give them any answers. Don't try to relate. Encourage them, if at all possible, to talk to a professional. If it's a workplace thing and you do have some sort of family assistance program or emergency family assistance program, something to that effect, then by all means refer them to that. If you're a supervisor, don't feel that you can't reach out to the human resources, and even under some anonymity, say, hey, refresh me. What are the resources that I have an employee, and what are the resources that I can refer them to? As I promised, I'm going to share with you a couple of points that I've found that where I actually have improved. Number 1 is in phone conversations. I'll be listening and people will say, Kevin, are you still there? They're so used to me interrupting all of a sudden when I've been quiet, and I have to reassure them, no, I'm listening. Oh, okay. Then they'll talk. Are you sure you're still there? Yes, I am. I'm listening. I take it as a bit of a personal win. It's like stepping on the scale and going, yeah, wow, a pound. You know what? For me, it's a big deal. And I've also found in face-to-face conversations that there's periods of silence, or the conversation doesn't seem as rushed for the other person. Partly because I used to think if the conversation had a lull or a silence, I had to fill it. And come to think of it, I worked a lot in road construction when I was younger. We would take all of the useless material that wasn't good for building the road or anything, and a lot of times we'd put it in holes. We'd call it fill. So useless stuff went to fill those holes. Think about that one. So I found that there was these bouts of silence in a conversation, and they were okay. Now, as I said, I'm still a work in progress, got a long ways to go, and I've talked a lot so far. I want you to do me a favor. Think safety, talk safety, do safety in an effort to provoke it at home and in the workplace. And that means listening and not passing judgment as well. I hope you have a healthy day. If you like the content, do me a favor. Click that like button. Just give it a click. And if you haven't done so already and you're new to the channel and you have enjoyed what you've seen and heard, click the subscribe button. Ding the bell, you'll get notified of new content. Anyway, we've got days to finish, I've got coffee to drink and some other work to do, so take care, see you next time. Bye for now.